I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for the Life in the UK test, part 103, Florence Nightingale, part 2, while doing leg stretching, and if you participate in the leg stretching, it is such a honest. So we're starting with the leg stretching. We're bringing one leg in front, the heel into the ground, and we're pulling the toes a bit towards us, and that stretches the leg. And from time to time, we're going to contract the quad muscles. So we're starting with contracting the quad muscles. So Florence Nightingale, we had already that she was born 1820 and lived until 1910. She was born in Italy to English parents, English contraction, and she went to Germany in 1851 and 1851. And then she trained there as a nurse, so for working in a hospital, and now we're contracting again. Then in 1854 she went to the Crimean War, which lasted from 1853 until 1856. And here's something with the dates. Here was written that many people were encouraged to leave the UK to settle overseas during the British Empire time, during the Victorian age. Release of contraction again. And it was written that happened between 1853 and 1913. They used this in both numbers. 1913 is the number 1 year before the First World War broke out. And contract again, the last time. 1853 is the year the Crimean War broke out. So, and she worked, so Florence Nightingale worked then in the Crimean War in hospitals to treat the wounded soldiers in Turkey in a hospital from the Crimean War. And she and her fellow nurses improved the conditions in the hospital and reduced the mortality rate. So we are not told how, but if we are in that situation, we have no idea how, but at least we know that it is possible. We have a leg in front, we're pulling the toes towards us, and we're contracting the quad muscles. So she and her fellow nurses improved the living conditions, and that reduced the mortality rate, so the rate in which people died. Now, how did she do it? Maybe she cleaned oftentimes, or changed bandages every day, or more than once a day, or she improved the bed hygiene or something and relaxed the contraction again, or she improved living conditions, or she improved the conditions. Maybe she had new diaries or something like that, protocols to make sure that when the people are sleeping, or maybe she just made a plan and wrote down at what times what people were eating. All that stuff could improve a hospital. And contract again. Maybe she just had as the first person the idea to write down who had what at what time, what medication, so no one gets it twice, so no one is forgotten. So there are hundreds of things possible which could have been done. In 1860, she established the Nightingale Training School for Nurses at St. Thomas Hospital in London. But it's complex to understand. We are releasing the contraction, and let's go slower over the sense. In 1860, so that is 4 years after the Crimean War had ended. Contract again. In 1860, she established the Nightingale Training School for Nurses at St. Thomas Hospital in London. Okay, London is the big city, and release for last time. And in London, there's the St. Thomas Hospital. And inside of the St. Thomas Hospital, there did she open up the so-called Nightingale Training School for Nurses. So in London, contract for last time, there's a big building. Its name is the St. Thomas Hospital. And inside of the St. Thomas Hospital, let's say it has 100 rooms. There she made, let's say, 4 rooms. I have no idea. 4 rooms, and in that were nurses trained. So where she trained them how to maybe just properly clean their hands before opening wounds or something, or before working at wounds or something. So there she had a school where she trained the nurses how to keep hygiene or something. It's nothing written here, so I have no idea how to work properly, to talk with the patients, maybe for having good discourse and a good dialogue with the patient. Let's go over the next exercise first. We're having the leg at the outside, the anchor chain stability test. The toes are pointing forward, and we're pressing the leg a bit into the ground. Maybe she just told them how to work with the patients, so that the patients can openly talk with the nurses and the doctors, and they don't feel afraid to tell what they have, and stuff like that. So it can be a lot, from hygiene work, cleaning, over psychological work. Maybe she trained the nurses themselves, how they could bear the pressure and all the misery around them. There can be hundreds of things which are maybe done in a nursery school, and he has not even one thing written, and we think of ourselves and finds thousands of things we can maybe do to improve the conditions and the living conditions and reduce mortality rate in hospitals. The school was the first, we're releasing the stretch a little bit, but we're keeping the leg there. The school was the first of its kind and still exists today, as do many of the practices that Nightingale used. And press the leg for last time into the floor. So that school, the Nightingale Training School for Nurses, which is inside of the St. Thomas Hospital in London, exists still today, and also other schools who are doing similar stuff exists. That makes sense. Not only people in London and Britain do need to know, nurses need to know how to improve the living conditions in hospitals and to reduce the mortality rate. We have a leg to the outside, foot the foot is pointing forward, and we're pressing a bit the leg into the ground. But also in Paris in France, or in Berlin in Germany, or somewhere else, or in Rome in Italy, people should know it. She is often regarded as the founder of modern nursing. So sometimes if people are speaking of who founded modern nursing, or something like that means the sentence, then they often talk about Florence Nightingale, because the Nightingale Training School for Nurses inside of the St. Thomas Hospital in London was the first of its kind to train nurses. And that makes her clearly a founder of the modern nursing. And we're releasing the stretch a little bit. And in the meantime, I'm telling something about Sir Francis Drake. Sir Francis Drake, he was a commander in the Spanish Armada, in the battle against the Spanish Armada in 1588, and he was a co-founder of the Naval History of Britain. And now we're having Florence Nightingale, a founder of the modern nursing history of the world. And we have George and Robert Stephenson, pioneered the railway engine, just because it's similar. Who connects? I don't know. I'm not relaxing or stretching. We're stretching the leg a bit around. And with that, we are through with Florence Nightingale. Maybe we could talk about what happened all to the living conditions. So we have that during the, and release the stretch, and not the next exercise. The leg to the outside, the foot is flexed, and we bring the leg up and down, the hydraulic carjack. And we bring the leg up and again down as the upper part of the body tries to stay frontal. We had that during the Industrial Revolution. The working conditions were poor for the employees. They worked for many long hours under poor conditions in dangerous situations, and also children. And when we had that something similar, so as I want to go through all that if you can get it, at the end of the 18th century, the first anti-slavery groups formed by Quakers and also people like William Wilberforce. And to the other side of the leg, with the other leg. To the other side, flex foot, and we're bringing it up and again on. So William Wilberforce. He was a member of a parliament, an evangelical Christian, and he and others succeeded in turning the public opinion against the slave trade. In 1807, was it illegal? Do we have anything as a name? I was wondering about that. No, nothing. What do we have? Along with other abolitionists, he succeeded in turning public opinion against the slave trade. In 1807, it became illegal to trade slaves. No, nothing. No name. And in 1833, the Emancipation Act. There we have a name. So for 1807, we have no name. Just it became illegal to trade slaves. And in 1833, the Emancipation Act. Yes, which abolished slaves. And we have then here. No, we're going on first to the next exercise. Into the 1990 position with the legs, both legs 90 degrees. We're going with the hands to the knee, which is behind of us. We're leaning the front to the knee, which is in front of us. We have that working conditions in factories could become gradually better during the Victorian period. Or age, I had. Yes, here, Victorian age. Victorian age. It was Elizabethan period. In 1847, the number of hours which women and children are allowed to work was reduced to 10. And also better housings were built, and special sport also improved. And do we have something similar? the middle class became increasingly significant and the number of reformers that moved to improve conditions of lives for the poor. And switching over to the other side. Again, first into 1990 with the legs, the hands to the knee ridges behind of us, leaning in front with the shoulder to the knee ridges in front of us. And now we have Florence Nightingale. She improved the conditions in hospitals, and she and her fellow nurses improved their conditions in the hospital. So she did that in Turkey during the Crimean War. And then she went to London, and there she opened in 1860 the Nightingale Training School for Nurses at the St. Thomas Hospital in London. And similar schools like that exist still today around the world. And she's regarded as the founder of modern nursing. And now, so stretching again, first into 1990 position, and we're leaning in front. Would like to go through the battles again, but we don't have time for that, it's too complicated. We just make the Crimean War again, so we were told any battle. Just that it was the first war to be covered by photographs and extensively through the media. That the conditions under which the Poles died, the conditions for the soldiers were poor, and under the pigeon pose, I don't even know how to do it without the English yourself. And that more people died through illnesses or through infections we got in hospitals went through the rounds of the war. And Queen Victoria introduced the Victoria Cross to honor soldiers who showed valor. And then let's go for the flags. So we're having the flags. That is the Union Jack. And then we're having from right to left the three flags. The St. George Cross, with one with a straight one. The red straight lines for the white background. And then we're having the Scottish flag, and that is the St. Andrew. Patron. And we're turning over to the other side. First into 1990, I went in front, and so in the middle is the Scottish flag. And the middle is the Scottish flag, and there we have the white cross in front of the blue, I think. And this is St. Andrew, and then we're having on the right, the third one, that is Wales. No, it's not Wales, Wales to drink. Ireland. Yes, Ireland, St. Patrick, the Tiger Red Cross. Now we're going into the pigeon pose, but I don't even know what to do with that. And down there we have Wales. So down there is Wales, the dragon. And together they form now the Union Jack, so a symbol for all of them. And then we can make the 6 wives of Henry VIII again, and these are Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, and Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard, and Catherine Parr. And we have 3 children. The first 3 we have in that direction: Mary, Elizabeth, and Edward. Edward the 6th. And we can go, I don't know for what. We're also done with the pigeon pose, so now to the butterfly stretch. Just the sole of the feet together. We're sitting straight up and we're leaning a bit in front. We can look a bit in advance. The next thing will be another section we had one about Ireland, where I already said it. I once said Yemen, I meant Jordan. So Ireland in the 19th century, that will be the next section. So we have another one for Ireland. I don't want to read one. I don't really read in forward. Or something about this name. I thank you very much. This is the end of the lecture. I thank you very much, and until the next time to Ireland and in the 19th century, and it won't be such a nice chapter. But I thank you very much because of the context. I thank you very much. What is it called? The context? I thank you very much, and until next time.